everyone, Felice Gerwitz here, and I want to share with you something that is dear to my heart, and that is saving you money. Can you use encouragement for your homeschool journey? Have you been searching for an online learning program designed to ground your family in a Christian worldview? Well, now you can at MediaAngelsMembership.com. Our affordable membership packages fit your budget and busy life. Now you can access customized membership packages for your homeschooling family from the extensive Media Angels library of books, classes, and Bible studies. You may select the ebook bundle, the creation bundle, the premium bundle, or the forever bundle. Each bundled set will save you vast amounts of money. Our packages begin at less than $10, and you can use it for the whole family. So go to MediaAngelsMembership.com for more information. That's MediaAngelsMembership.com. You'll be glad you did.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions, from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at MediaAngels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Hey everyone, and welcome. This is Felice Gerwitz with an episode of Vintage Homeschool Moms, and today we are going to talk about curriculum shopping. This is episode 323, and you can find the show notes at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Well, curriculum shopping was a highlight of my homeschool year, and I never understood why curriculum fairs were so early. But as I began getting more and more into homeschooling, I started understanding and thinking that even if my year wasn't complete, I should have an idea of what the upcoming year would be, and at least take a look at some of the new things that were out there or some of the books that I was considering buying. In fact, it made me feel like I was not behind. So fast forward many years of homeschooling gone by, and I realized that for me and my family, the best time to purchase curriculum was in June, or the end of May, which is when our curriculum fair was. I could finish my school year, take a look back, and see what worked and what didn't. And I was blessed to find homeschool math curriculum that I loved. And these helped us in many ways to accomplish what was often considered the hardest subject. My kids loved to do the hardest subject first, so the rest of the day seemed easy in comparison. In fact, they would get up early to complete math before breakfast. So I have a bunch of questions that I asked my kids and I asked myself, and I have a printable for those of you who are part of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. But as I am recording this in March of 2019, if you're hearing this years later, you can send me an email at felice@mediaangels.com, and I'll see if I can get you a copy of this printable. But the printable, it's really like a guide to buying curriculum, and it's going to have lots of really good and actionable things that you can do. I am creating a podcast on how to shop for curriculum that is a little bit more specific in the nitty-gritty about, some good places to go to look for curriculum. But for this podcast, I want to just give you an overview of thinking about curriculum and shopping for curriculum that is going to meet the needs of your family. So the first questions I asked myself, and there's 5 of them, and some of them are multi-parts, but what are my kids' ages and grades? So if I kind of knew where they were in the scheme of things, as my kids would say, they were in fourth, 5th, or 6th, 7th, because some things they were doing 6th grade, some things 7th. So they would tell people that, and of course, that people would look at me with a strange look on their face. Well, which is it? Are you in 6th grade or 7th? So I would have to say, they're working on grade level in some things and above grade level in others. The second is, do you have a budget? And if you do you have one per subject or an overall budget? Some people will have realistic budgets, and others will say, well, I'm just going to get all my curriculum for free. And let me tell you, free curriculum is not free because of the cost of printing out everything that you get. So I would really look at that. Even if you're going to buy an ebook or a printed book, and kind of weigh those options. If you have a large family and you're going to use like our study guides, the Media Angel study guides, go K through 12. So you could buy one book and use it across grades. And if you bought the digital book, that would be great too, because you wouldn't have to print out the entire thing. There are just certain pages you would print out. So again, that would be great for those who are on a budget. The third is, do I want to focus on hands-on curriculum or text and workbooks? And if you have an idea of what works for your family, that, again, is going to be a tremendous help. And that will help you narrow down what curriculum you want to buy. And the fourth is, how will my kids relate to the books I purchase? So some kids love textbooks. In fact, they'll start reading them like it's a fun book. And other kids will look at a textbook and kind of freak out, and the same thing with workbooks. So look at your kids and say, if you're new to homeschooling, it's not something you're going to be able to test out. One of the things I highly recommend, and I know a lot of parents whose kids are in school would buy a workbook for them to work in that was like a fun workbook. But you will find in looking back at this fun workbook that there are many blanks that the kids have not filled in or skipped over. And so that would give you some indication of whether they would work good with workbooks or textbooks. And the fifth is, do I want to add outside sources? In other words, co-ops, online classes, or, thinking outside of the box. Often the best ideas are those that come to you after you pray. One year, I was so tired of what I felt was zipping through curriculum. I had purchased several years of a popular science text, and when I found the text for the next year, it began in, we ended up using it in January, the next year's curriculum, and I was so disappointed when it started again with the topic of birds, because the previous year had also done that, and we had, of course, done some extra, different units with that. And in January, we had planned a trip, because here in Florida in January is when we can see a lot of the migrating birds are here, like the wood storks, and it really depends on how wet the ecosystem is. But we had planned a trip to look at some of the different things that we had studied previously, because you're not always going to study things, in the optimal time. And if you're brave, you will do that. You will, and that's what I ended up doing later on as I got braver in my homeschool. And I don't know if many of you know that I have an education background, so I had to unlearn a lot of things that I had learned in as a teacher, so that I could homeschool my kids more effectively. So after I saw this fiasco that, was basically going to go a little bit deeper into what we had already studied, I knew I had to regroup. And so I gave my kids a week off first we talked about what they would like to study or explore or do, or what projects or art or, whatever it is they wanted to do. And I got them started on that. And I took that week and I started looking at what worked really well in my homeschool. So it took me another week to regroup and plan. And that week, the rest of the school year, we actually delved into unit studies. And my kids really, really loved them. So that's something that I would consider in the younger grades especially, and middle grades, is unit studies. Your kids will thank you, I promise. I know it's more work, moms. And sometimes you have multi-age children and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do it. But with multi-age children, unit studies actually do work best. And you can look at my book, Teaching Science and Having Fun, and that explains exactly how to do a science-themed unit study, but more so across the different grade levels. A unit study on birds can turn into a study on migration patterns, bird watching, identification, the study of habitats, and so much more. So a study such as that would really, require the kids to look at real books, to get outside, to take notes, to draw pictures, to take pictures. And so those kinds of studies are wonderful. And our study in geology, we started with rock collections, and it was so much fun. And I got the entire family enlisted in this. So my parents were going to Italy, and they brought back some rocks from Italy. And my aunt was going on a trip up north, and I had her bring back rocks. And then we took a trip to Georgia and North Carolina, and we brought back rocks. So through the years, we revisited the study of rocks and collections. And every once in a while, we would buy one or two if we went to a nature center. But I would tell the kids, this is what we were going to do ahead of time, so they knew and would be prepared. And so we had, the biggest collection, and I still have it to this day. And the wonderful thing about this collection is that now I can share it with my grandchildren. So that's just gives you a little bit of an idea. When you're looking at curriculum, you don't necessarily need an entire, K through 12 or even, kindergarten curriculum or first or second grade. You can put things together where the kids are going to be studying things that are going to, first of all, pique their interest, get them excited about learning. And it's a great first step if you have younger children. You can consider, doing unit studies even in the middle grades, and that was one of the things that we really enjoyed. All right, so I have more questions for you to ask, and I want you to look at the following to help narrow down your curriculum choices. So look at your child's learning style. If your child is an auditory learner and loves having books read to them or listens to audios, it isn't probably best to have this child just working in textbooks. Textbooks are for the really strong visual learners that can just read something and remember it, or write it down and remember it. Truthfully, that is how I like to learn. Just give me the book, give me the workbook, and let me work through a set of questions. But I found that my children did not like that. My last out of 5 was like me, and you could just give him a book and that would be great. But the other 4 learned more with the interactive, the hands-on, the projects, and that worked best for them. The second is ask your children what they want to learn. Don't just say, well, what do you want to learn in science? You need to be specific and say, are you interested in astronomy or anatomy or earth science or chemistry or biology or botany or oceanography? And then explain what that is. Or give them a list of different topics for science and have them go explore and figure out what that is, and then come back and as a family discuss that. You'll be surprised at how excited they will be. My kids were so excited to help plan what they were going to learn. Now, did it always work out perfectly? Absolutely not. Like one year I had my 2 oldest, one wanted to study astronomy and the other one wanted to study oceanography, and they were both insisting that their topics would go first. So it doesn't always go smoothly. And I always said, one's got their head in the stars and the other one's, 50 feet or 100 feet under the ocean. So, it's sometimes you've got to compromise. And again, another life lesson. If you are curriculum shopping, there is really only one place, unless you know of another one and want to send me a link or comment in the post. So if you go to vintagehomeschoolmoms.com, look for the topic curriculum shopping, and this is episode 323, you can leave me a comment in the comment section, but I highly recommend KathyDuffyReviews.com. Kathy is a longtime homeschooler. She graduated her 3 boys from homeschooling. And while she was homeschooling, she began, this is back in the day before we really had this widespread just jump on the internet and look at, 20 different reviews. But she set out to look at quality curriculum, and she was very, very specific and had a critical eye. Now, the disclaimer I have is my books did make it to her top 100 and 102 curriculum picks, the Creation Science and Accompanying Study Guides, as well as Teaching Science and Having Fun. And those were the only ones I submitted, and they all made it into her curriculum picks book. But one of the really nice things in her reviews is that she sets them up in subject areas, and then I think you can also do a search for grade levels. And she's been doing this for so many years, and I love that she's still at it. And like I said, I would highly recommend her. And I did interview her on vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. And let me write myself a note here, or I will forget. And that is, I will put the link to the interview I did with her some years ago, and I really need to get her back on because she is such a wealth of information. One other plug for myself, and that is the Media Angels membership is our sponsor today, MediaAngels.com as well. And you can get all of the Creation Series, study guides, teaching science, and having fun for less than $30 with the Media Angels membership. And, this is such a savings over one book being $18.95 that you would get on Amazon. And that's where I sell the printed books. So if you want those, head over to Amazon, and you probably can find them less than that because I run sales all the time. So while my curriculum is digital on the membership site, one of the things I will tell you is it is for K through 12. And so it's really nice because I do have a scope and sequence in the Teaching Science and Having Fun that you can look at and, get an idea of what you should be teaching for each grade level. The fourth is listen to podcasts. There are some wonderful recommendations I'm going to make, and they will be in the vintagehomeschoolmoms.com curriculum shopping, and it will be in this podcast. But I've got 3 homeschool curriculum essentials when your curriculum is wrong for your teens, best curriculum for your family, and movies for homeschool curriculum. And some of these are podcasts from other podcasters on my Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Also visit a homeschool convention. Homeschool convention attendance has changed in recent years. With everything available online and the expense involved to attend it is often the last thing on a homeschool mom's list. However, it's important to attend for many reasons. And the most important is encouragement. It can be overwhelming, which is why I've created a standalone curriculum buying guide that will be helpful, and it will be available, like I said, for free to my email subscribers. And like I said, if you're listening to this months later, just shoot me an email and I will get to that. It's Felice, Felice, at MediaAngels.com. Also, get on email lists from your favorite publisher. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say, all of my printables and study guides and giveaways that I have on this network are available on my membership site. So I have, a ton of stuff that is available that you don't want to miss. So check out that Media Angels membership site. Get on an email list from your favorite publisher. That is one of the best ways that you can get to know them. Many publishers have samples. They have certain sales that they run just to their email subscribers. They will, give you information that is really good, and you can even, find out who you need to email to ask a question or call. You can join Facebook groups or discussion groups or to ask questions, and that's also something that's wonderful. My favorite curriculum shopping happened when I decided to use an eclectic approach, and I began with topics that we wanted to study, and I created our own studies, and it was fun. And I shopped for books that were topic related, and we used these books for many, many years. For example, Creation Science Focus requires books that are purchased instead of books that you can just find in the library. And also, you can try interlibrary loan and see if you can get books from other libraries. Sometimes they will, depends on where you live as to how good the library system is. But that's very, very helpful. And, one of the things that people don't know is sometimes you can get homeschool curriculum at your library by requesting it. I didn't even know that my Insider's Guide to Successful Science Fairs was at the local library. Some of the moms had requested it. They ordered 10 copies, and at that point I had a distributor and wasn't handling it myself, so I had no idea, and my kids found it in the library, and they're like, Mom, you're famous, your book's in our library. And I actually went up to the librarian some years past and said, this is an old version of the book, there's a newer version, and then they ordered that one. So don't think that you can't get your library system to order books, because they can do that. They'll contact us as publisher. All right, so library talked about. All right, when you use topics that interest your children, as I shared, they will be so excited about school that they will be excited to get started each day. All right, so let's say that, oh my gosh, I'm not like that, Felice. I can't do it. That would just drive me crazy. Well, make some sort of a compromise. If you're a textbook workbooks mom, or you want to use some online classes, or you want to do co-ops, then allow your children what I call the time to think. Give them some time to explore the things that they love. One of the best things about homeschooling is that you are flexible, you are in control, and you are the mom. So don't overly stress what they're learning every year, because I guarantee you, we don't remember what we learned when we were in third grade, do we? And you didn't even remember that when you finished third grade. So not to say that you don't work with your kids and you don't do the best you can, but just don't stress the small stuff. One of the things that was important to me in my homeschool was Bible studies. And one year we were all in different Bible studies. So I said to my husband, I really want, the book of Proverbs is such a wealth of information. And I did Proverbs all different ways. Like I read it in a month, one a day, and just doing it different ways. And I found that the book of Proverbs, dovetailed in perfectly with homeschooling. And so I ended up creating a study for our entire family, for the little ones, as well as all the way to adult and high school. And it comes with audios per lesson, and then a lot of pages that you can print with deeper, digging deeper in journal pages and so forth. And it's called Homeschooling with Proverbs. It's a standalone digital product, because some people have asked for it alone in my Media Angels membership site, so you may want to check on that. And I think if you just type in Homeschooling with Proverbs, it will go directly to that page. I'm not positive, but I think it is. And then also, I kind of want to talk about online learning. Now, I'm not a big fan of putting kids in front of a computer all day. However, let's say that they're struggling, or this is out of your realm of what you want to teach. So I used DVDs for higher math, and our favorites I'm going to just share with you were Chalk Dust for the older grades and Saxon for the younger grades. Mr. D Math is one of my previous podcasters on this network. You can still find his shows in the More Shows category, and he also has an online math program that I hear is really, really good. When it came to history, I felt my American history was lacking, so I partnered with my brother-in-law, who was a history professor, and he lived in West Virginia and was retired and had been History Professor of the Year 2 different years in a row. And he taught in an innovative way, and a lot of it came from his love of what we were doing as homeschoolers. And he said if he had known about homeschoolers when his kids were little, he would have homeschooled. And so he created this wonderful American history class. That classes were focused on teaching U.S. Constitution, the lives of the American presidents, their accomplishments, and also an American government class. And these were taught in real time and recorded, and you can get them for a fraction of the cost now, yes, in the Media Angels membership site. My kids loved the classes so much that my daughter is going to be a history major in college. She wants to teach history because of her love of history, and they became walking, talking U.S. Constitution, American history kids, and just amazed at how much they retained from just watching these videos. And the American history class is really in depth. There's 62 hours of video. So You'd have to do that over a year's time. There's also online classes taught by North Star Academy. The Nearings are podcasters on this network. They have the Soft Skills podcast, Bright Ideas Press. They also are... not only do they have curriculum, but they also have an online school. And then Luma Learn, who was one of our sponsors during our birthday celebration on our Ultimate Homeschool Radio network. And you can even teach a class if you feel qualified. I keep wanting to teach a class on podcasting on Luma Learn. So there's teachers who can, submit their classes, or your kids can take classes on her platform. Of course, there's many others, but these are the ones I'm personally familiar with and that I know that are specifically geared to homeschooling. So those are, my suggestions. Like I said, I'm going to do another podcast on specifically how to shop for homeschool curriculum, what lists you should take with you, what you should look for specifically, and also, ways that you can bless your family by fine-tuning your curriculum so that you have the best year ever. Take care, God bless, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and TheVintageHomeschoolMoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.